All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I know we're coming up on the end of summer, kids are going back to school, life's pretty busy, so we really appreciate you carving out the time to be here with us. This is our last stop in the Resonate Live Summer Series, so if you've caught any of our earlier ones, welcome back. If this is your first, you picked a good one. I'm Lisa Villano, the VP of Brand and Product Marketing here at Resonate, and I'm joined today by Elizabeth Drenning, our Director of Managed Services. Elizabeth, say hi.
Hi, everyone. Looking forward to the convo today.
Thanks so much for joining me, Elizabeth. So here's what we're going to get into today. So we just launched our brand new 2026 holiday spending guide, and we've packed in four predictions and four clear moves that you can make right now to get ahead of the holiday season. These are four shifts that matter and exactly what to do with them. But before we jump into today's topic, I just want to do a quick recap of our first three sessions in the summer series. If you missed any of them, don't sweat it. You can go ahead and just scan that QR code on the screen, and that will take you to our webinars page where you can catch up on any of them that you're interested in. So back in July, Meredith and Aman kicked things off with predicting the price-pressured consumer, which was all about how affordability is reshaping who buys and what they're willing to pay for, and why last year's version of your customer might already be out of date. Then at the beginning of August, we had Carly walk us through the top ways leading brands are growing right now, moving past guesswork and the demographics to actually understand why people buy. And then just last week, we had Jonathan, who covered 5 steps agencies can take to stay competitive with real practical moves instead of advice on just adapt. So those are some really great content, and I really highly recommend that you guys go and check them out. Again, just scan the code on the screen and it'll take you right there. But without further ado, we're going to get into today's presentation. So let's start with the headline. Holiday spending is basically flat year over year. 54.6% of consumers are planning holiday travel. 16% are buying gifts, and 21% are planning to spend more in general, all of which barely moved from where we were the same time last year. Now, on the surface, flat spending might look like nothing's changed, but flat doesn't always mean static. It usually means the movement is happening underneath in who's spending, on what, and why. And that is exactly what Elizabeth and I are going to unpack today. So here's the thing about flat spending. It tricks a lot of brands into rinse and repeat mode. Same campaign, same targeting, and the same playbook as last year. Because, hey, the top line number didn't really move much. But there is a catch. The data most companies are using to understand the holiday shopper, it's already a year old. And demographics alone cannot tell you why holiday shoppers buy what they buy. They can't tell you what's changed in their lives since last year, or even what would actually make them choose you over the competitor when they walk in the aisle. So if everyone's competing for the same dollars using the same stale surface level data, nobody's actually differentiating. And that's not a strategy, that's what we like to call flying blind. And that is exactly why we created the 2026 Holiday Spending Guide, based on our continuously updated predictive consumer intelligence. So it's not old news, it's what's true right now. You guys are pretty lucky because you're getting early access to this report today. So go ahead, take a minute, scan that QR code in the top corner, and grab yourself a copy. If you miss it, don't worry, I'm going to have it on most of the slides today, so you'll have your chance to scan whenever you see it. So here's how today's going to work. I'm going to walk you through each of the four predictions. For each one, I'm going to show you the data, and then Elizabeth's going to tell you exactly what to do about it in your campaigns. And honestly, she's the perfect person for that job because her team runs campaigns on behalf of our customers every day. So what she tells you isn't theoretical, it's what she'd actually go execute for a customer this holiday season. All right, so prediction number one, finding the full price buyers will be your competitive advantage this year. Well, what does that mean? So in a flat spending year, the brands that win aren't necessarily reaching more people. They're reaching the right people and the ones who are actually willing to pay full price. And here's what our data shows. Across some pretty important categories for holiday brands, meaningful chunks of customers are not changing their buying habits based on price at all. 31% are keeping their travel and leisure spending the same. 30% aren't planning to cut household spending at all over the next 6 months, and 20% aren't touching their electronic habits. And 22% are holding steady on luxury, with 17% still spending on the same things like dining out and personal care, the stuff that's easiest to cut first. So these buyers exist in every category, but the challenge is they don't look any different on paper than a discount shopper, and most brands cannot tell them apart, which means they don't know how to reach them differently either. So, what does that look like in practice? Well, most competitors are still planning off last year's buying patterns and demographics. They're treating every potential customer the same, with the same offer, the same timing, the same messaging, and no way to tell that bargain hunter from the full price buyer. So, what happens? Well, they end up undercutting their own value with discounts customers never asked for, and they miss the chance to speak to what have actually convinced them to pay full price. And being able to spot and speak to that audience is a real edge right now. And Elizabeth's going to show you how brands should actually go and do that.
Yeah, I love the call out about reaching the right people, and that just because holiday spending is flat doesn't mean it's static. There's a great opportunity here for brands to find those full price buyers first and hit them with messaging that applies to them. To do that, our first step is going to be to segment our audience based on their values and motivations, not just their demographics. Then we build a plan to reach these people before any promotional or discount campaigns start with messaging that is distinct from those promotional sales messaging. Let's treat that full price buyer differently than the sales anticipating buyer because they are different. And that's the audience piece. But even once you've found them, price sensitivity isn't the only thing standard data gets wrong. And that brings us to prediction two.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right. So, as she said, prediction two, price isn't the reason that consumers are buying. And here's the paradox that we're seeing. Almost everyone says the economy feels bad right now. The sentiment is overwhelmingly negative. But when you actually look at the spending behavior, it is barely moving, just tiny shifts month to month. So if people feel like things are tight, but they're still spending close to normal, price clearly isn't the whole story. So let's see what is. So let's look at what's actually happening across categories. Across the board, the share of people planning to spend more is edging down. Groceries dropped from 42 to 40%. Transportation, vehicle upkeep, travel, entertainment, household goods, they've also all dropped. And here's what that tells us. Affordability concerns are real, but that's really just the surface. What's actually happening underneath is that people aren't rearranging their spending intentions in reaction to price anymore. Earlier this year, when inflation in gas and grocery prices climbed, people just adjusted their budgets. And now that adjustment has become the new normal, and it's just baked in. So price still matters, don't get us wrong, but it matters the way it always has. People set a budget based on price, but how they spend within that budget, what they actually choose to buy, comes down to what they value, not that price tag. And that's the shift that brands need to catch. Stop treating price as the driver and start understanding the values underneath it. So let's look at the holiday traveler example. You might assume a more price conscious environment means there's going to be fewer people traveling this year. Feels like common sense. But that's actually not what we're seeing. The same number of people plan to travel for the holidays as last year, and price isn't stopping them. So look at the spread here. 12% are spending under $500, 11% in the $500 to $999 range, 10% in the $1,000 to $2,000 range. And even at the high end, there are still people spending $5,000 or $10,000 or more on holiday travel. So you've got the high intent travelers sitting in every single bucket here, from budget to luxury. It's not a price story. Someone spending $300 and someone spending $10,000 plus might both be equally committed to traveling this holiday. But what's different is what they value, not what they can afford. And honestly, I think that's the real takeaway. Price tells you almost nothing about who's going to convert, their values do. So that's what's actually driving that difference. It's not affordability, it's the values. Consumers planning to spend $2,000 or more on holiday travel are motivated by excitement, keeping traditions alive, and a sense of acquiring wealth and influence. Meanwhile, on the other side, people spending under 2000 care about independence, caring for nature, and fitting in with the people around them. So it's the same trip, but a completely different reason for booking it. And I think that's the real lever here. It's not the price point. If you're only segmenting by budget, you're missing the actual story of why that person wants to book at all. So the question becomes, how do you actually market to values instead of just budget? Elizabeth, over to you.
Yeah, it's easy to miss reachable segments when you base targeting on the wrong assumptions. The fix here is to build campaigns around what a segment values, not what they are assumed to be sensitive to. If we're running the campaign, we're going to pressure test the media plan category by category. We'd split high intent categories into value based subsegments. So, for example, tradition and status driven versus independence and nature driven for the holiday traveler. So, messaging speaks to that motivation instead of something generic. Then we shift budget towards the value led positioning and the categories where the data shows resilience. Once you know price isn't the barrier, the next question's timing. And that's where a lot of holiday plans lose ground before the big sale days even arrive.
And that takes us to our next prediction, which is savings expectations won't sell. And here's why. The holiday sale is not a differentiator anymore. It's table stakes. Every shopper expects the sale, and that means every brand is fighting for their attention in exactly the same moment. So let's look at actually what's happening. Our data shows sales seeking intent is climbing the closer that we get to the holidays. In retail electronics alone, sales seeking intent has grown more than 2 points in just the last few months, now up to about 23% of all shoppers. It's trending up, not down. So here's the good news. Your Black Friday and your Cyber Monday sales are likely to reach a growing audience. And you guys already have the experience running discount campaigns. You know how to do that. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. But there's bad news. So does everybody else. All your competitors are all running the same sales at the same time for the same audience, and not every sale performs the same way. Demographic data cannot tell you why one campaign outperforms another. And on top of that, because consumers are expecting the sale, it's actually harder to capture their attention in that window, not easier. So the opportunity isn't just the sale itself, it's understanding who's going to respond to it and why before the entire market shows up saying the exact same thing. And 51.1 million shoppers are looking for sales this season. That's a huge crowd that you guys are all chasing. So, how do you tell them apart from each other? Well, 22% care most about easy returns, and 53% are using coupons more than the average adult. Their top values are safety and being in charge, not just getting a lower price. So the win isn't just running the sale, it's knowing who these shoppers actually are. Elizabeth, can you help us understand how brands should be talking to the sale audience?
Yeah. So the big move here is getting in front of the sales anticipating audience before the promotional window opens, in the same way that you want to get to the full price buyers before a promotional window. So we want to align the creative to the segment's values instead of a generic urgency or discount messaging. So we'd run an awareness campaign 6 to 8 weeks before the sale window with that value-based messaging to earn consideration before the price or size of the sale becomes the headline. So we've covered who to reach, why price isn't the whole story, and when to start. The last piece is where all of this actually needs to show up.
And that takes us to our last prediction, which is influencers will lead your media spend astray. So, social media influencers are getting an enormous amount of attention right now. A lot of brands are following that attention straight into their ad spend. But our data is telling a different story about where the customers are actually doing the shopping. So, let's look at it. Here's how holiday shoppers say they're actually buying gifts. 58.5% are going to shop in the store. 54% are going to shop online through a secondhand site like Amazon or eBay. 34% are going to go directly through the manufacturer's website, with just a small 10% that are going to shop online through social media, and 15% saying that they don't plan to shop for presents at all. So social media is only a tenth of the market share. It's trailing in-store shopping, marketplace sites, and even the brand's own website. And even among online shoppers broadly, only 6% engage with podcasts, and only 7% are using social media frequently. Meanwhile, 29% are watching more than 21 hours of TV every week, with 20% of those being TV streamers. So the point is that you need a way to understand exactly how and where your shoppers are buying without relying on assumptions that may lead to wasted ad spend. So, to understand where to invest on a better customer experience this season, I'm going to turn it back over to Elizabeth.
Yeah, I love this one. So before greenlighting a media budget based on where the buzz is, the smarter move is confirming where a given segment will actually be shopping and matching that channel investment to the reality. So we would segment the holiday shopper into at least three groups. So online shopper, manufacturer site shopper, in-person shopper, and then treat them as separate campaigns. We'd rebalance our planned media spend based on the channel behavior for each of those segments. And then finally, and I think you can probably sense a theme here, we're going to make sure we're matching the creative themes to what each segment values. So, practicality and trustworthiness for manufacturer site shoppers, for example, rather than the one size fits all, everyone has it message.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, so let's bring that all back together. So we had four predictions, four moves that you guys can make right now before the holiday season. First, find and reach full price buyers before the sale window opens. Second, build your campaigns around what people value, not the assumptions about who is price sensitive. Third, start your sale anticipation campaign 6 to 8 weeks early before the discount becomes the whole message. And lastly, put your media dollars where each shopper segment actually is, not where the industry conversation happens to be the loudest. All right, so before I dig into some of the questions that came in today, just a quick reminder, the full 2026 holiday spending guide is available right now. So here's your last chance, scan the code, get those predictions in way more detail, bring them back to your teams. There is actually an audio version in the report as well. So if you prefer to listen rather than read, you can find that right on page 1. And as always, we release this type of data every quarter, so keep your eyes peeled. There will be more coming in Q4. And with that, I want to get into some of our questions. Okay, so let's me look in the queue and see what we got going on here. All right, let's see. Okay, how do I actually access the data from today's presentation for my campaigns? Can I find this data in Meta? Oh, okay. That is a great question. So all of our data can be made readily available in any social platform, any marketplace, DSP, where you guys are running your campaigns. We have thousands of off-the-shelf segments that are already in those platforms. We can build custom audiences that you need for your campaigns and put them into the platforms that you're using. So it's a super easy process to activate on any Resonate audience. If you guys are finding yourselves a little spread thin this year and you need an extra set of hands, Elizabeth's team is a great resource to lean on. They are running campaigns on behalf of all of our customers every day. So if that is something that you're interested in, definitely, reach out and we would be happy to help. All right, let's me look into the next question. All right. So, this is a good tie-in, Elizabeth. Okay, obviously, Elizabeth's team partners with your customers to implement a lot of what you talked about today, but how does that work? Is it like working with an agency?
Ooh,
There you
that's
go.
another great question. In some ways, yes, our team works with our customers from planning all the way through execution. We don't build out creative, but we do help inform messaging and the channel distribution. And then ultimately, we execute the campaign for our customers. We really like to say we work as an extension of their team. So, working together to make sure that we're getting the best efficiency and the best scale, making sure we're hitting the right people. And we're able to see in flight, who is engaging with certain creatives. if one audience is performing higher or better than another. And we're able to offer those messaging, maybe suggestions for changes to creative throughout a campaign. And then ultimately, finally provide reporting and kind of do a walkthrough of what worked, what didn't, and really work with our customers to iterate on each campaign that we run with them.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Again, Elizabeth's team does a great job running campaigns. So if you guys are feeling yourself spread thin, please reach out. It's a great resource to use her team, especially in the busy holiday season.
Yeah, and Lisa, I should have touted this before, but we do have a pretty robust team with a number of years experience behind us. So it's not just, me and another person. We do have a really nice sized team with a good amount of experience, and that lends us to be able to have great relationships with the partners that we use, really, on a customer's behalf. So it really, extends a customer's team's ability to do the work that they need to do.
Awesome. All right, I think we have time for one more question. I kind of like this one, so I'm going to go with this one. If people aren't adjusting spending intent in response to price the way they did early in the year, does that mean discounting is becoming less effective as a lever overall or just for certain segments? I think that's an awesome question. I would say I don't think discounts are losing their power. I mean, I don't think I'm the only one on this call that loves a discount. But I do think we're seeing that price isn't really the ultimate motivator. Um, I think people who are sensitive to price are really just saying this price doesn't match my definition of value. So your discount really only goes so far. Um, I think everybody would say yes to a lower price, but if that's really all you don't really have anything to compete with in this market because I think every brand would be serving the same discounts. And then you end up right back where you started, right? So you really can only personalize if you understand what makes someone want to buy before they even start thinking about price. So, short answer, I don't think discounts are going away. Long answer, there's so much more that goes into it besides price sensitivity. All right, so I think we are going to wrap it up. If we didn't get to your questions, we will reach out to you guys individually after the webinar. Again, last chance to scan the code to get a copy of our newest report. Really appreciate you guys joining us today. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me today as well. We hope to see you guys on our next webinar. See you all soon.